So thanks for having us here tonight. First, how should I say, a like cause between Audubon Society and South Bay Parkland Conservancy. So as I said, I'm Jim Light. Jim Montgomery will be talking to the actual bluff program. I'll be giving a quick overview of what SBPC is all about for those of you who don't know us. We'll go through some of our projects and then turn it over to Jim for a deep dive on the bluff. Okay, so are you ready to go here?
I'm not sure why this is. I don't know how to remove this. Do you know how to remove this little strip here? Okay, let me stop here and try to redo this.
Just PDFs, right? It's a PowerPoint slideshow. There's some reason better.
I don't. Maybe once.
Looks like there's a down arrow there. It's on the other.
I don't see.
Yeah, this one we did the dry run.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay, I'll remove that. I know there's no way. There's no way. Okay.
Okay, if we could just go to the next slide. I've already done kind of the slide into the discussion.
Sorry, it's not. There you go.
Space bar.
There you go.
There you go.
It's not letting me.
Okay,
yeah,
so South Bay Parkland Conservancy, we call ourselves SBPC because that's too long to say and spell out all the time. We formed in 2004 as a nonprofit. It was actually current mayor of Redondo Beach, Bill Brand, who started it. I was he tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to be one of the founding board members. We were originally formed as Bill and I started to combat the power plant. We knew the power plant wanted to repower there, that they were looking at curtailing the once-through cooling, using ocean water for cooling because of the impact on all the larval marine animals. And we didn't want them to rebuild. We wanted them to shut down because it's such a blight on our waterfront. And we knew the history there of the Great Salt Lake, the old salt lake that was there, and that's what we wanted to see brought back to our area. So we formed in 2004 to start fighting that power plant, and we've continued that mission. In fact, policy was probably for the first 10 years of our life was probably our main focus is trying to get policy in that would focus on expanding parkland, preserving parkland, and enhancing it. So that is our mission: preserving, enhancing, and expanding parkland in the South Bay. We generally define that as from PV, because you got PV PLC up on the hill. So from PV to, we would like to extend into Manhattan Beach, but I think Bay Foundation has taken over a lot of the projects there. So we're kind of between the end of Hermosa and Torrance Beach. And then inland as far as Alondra Park, if you know where that is. Yes. Strategic thrusts, we've got these are our main strategic thrusts. Currently, we've got some other projects below the kind of under the wire, but these are our main ones: restore and protect and expand native habitat. That's been a big thrust since 2017 for us. Establishing the first community garden in Redondo Beach. Redondo is odd in that it's such it's a big community, 65,000 people, and yet it's one of the few cities that doesn't have any place for the community to go and actually do gardening. So we're working on that down at Alta Vista Park. We started out influencing public policy, pro-public parkland, land, recreation, and open space, and also pro-urban forestry. Somebody's working on like urban forest type regulations for the city of Redondo, and most cities already have protection of it. Redondo is so backwards we don't. So that's our focus right now, and a lot of education to the public. And so opportunities like this, you guys are already well educated, so I don't expect you'll learn that much from us, but it's great to get out and share our cause with like-minded folks. Next slide.
It's not letting me again. So let me click on this.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly just cover all our projects, and at the bottom is Esplanade Bluff, and I'll let Jim cover the deep dive on that. But all the way up here is Alondra Park. We just closed this year with an agreement with the county of LA to maintain that park, because it isn't a city park, it's a county park. That took over a year. LA County is particularly bureaucratic. So that was tough. If any of you know Jean Bellarmine, she was a professor at the at El Camino College, and she's still involved. But she wants to hand it off to an organization that can perpetuate it. So we just signed the agreement a few months ago, and we're starting our program on it. Audubon was involved in that. I don't know if any of you knew. You guys provided the insurance that she needed to conduct her operations on the island. So what that is, if you don't know, there's an island in the middle of that park. It was scooped out. They have a big pond, and when they scooped out the dirt, they plopped it in the middle, and that's the island. There's a bridge that goes over to it that's locked off. And Jean, at the time, they had a horticulture program at El Camino College, and she wanted to do native plants there. So the south end of the island is in native plants, and we're slowly expanding that over the rest of the island. So it's an exciting project. We'd like to do more further inland like that, so we can get connections of habitats for the wildlife. But that's a fun project, and we're excited to start that one. Hermosa Greenbelt is probably our newest project. Last year, we got a $15,000 donation from a resident who wanted to do the Greenbelt Hermosa. We said, well, we don't know if we'll take the money, but we'll give it back if we can't get an agreement with the city of Hermosa, because we didn't want to repurpose his money for something we didn't want to pay for. And I was actually shocked. It's kind of the antithesis of LA County. So I sent an email to one of the councilmen I knew. She hooked me up with one of their public works director. Within a day, he emailed me. And within 3 days, we started the agreement between the two of us. And within 2 weeks, we had a written agreement. Within a month, we had our first project that actually the mayor, Mike DePloy, had as his public work day, his volunteer day. So the city helped advertise, and we planted 250 plants in like 2 hours. So, and we cleared and planted 250 plants in like 2 hours. It was pretty amazing. And we've done about a third of an acre there. And right now, Leadership Hermosa has voted to extend that project. So we're starting to work with them. We just got the signed modification, the agreement to do some new areas. So we started at between 2nd and 6th Street, if you know, Hermosa, right across from South Park. And then we're going to be going towards Redondo. And our goal with that project is to create connectivity. Once we have the bluffs done, we have blue butterfly connectivity down the bluffs in Redondo, starting to work with the city of Redondo to try to do all their medians and the city property between the end of the bluffs and the edge of the city with blue butterfly habitat. And then we need a way to get it to Manhattan Beach, and that's where we chose the green belt in Hermosa for that. So, and then we found out there's overwintering monarchs, so we changed the palette so that we can serve the overwintering monarchs as well. So that's what we're doing there. We actually just got a call this week. The Girl Scouts want to do a project there too. So, and I
you'll have no trouble getting to the green belt through Manhattan Beach.
Pardon? Yeah,
Because
so Manhattan Beach is kind of standoffish. We had 2 people approach us from their Parks and Recs Commission, and we offered to help Manhattan Beach, extend through their green belt, and they said no, we'll do it ourselves. So, so and they are doing the coastal dunes there through Bay Foundation. So
yeah,
they want to do their own thing, and we don't want to fight about it. We can't win.
What park that is? They've got the native. Now they're more in the native forest. Hollywood.
Yeah, they have
So they have their little. Yeah, they have their botanical garden there.
Right.
Yeah. And they're going to be putting some native plants through Mike Garcia at the monument they're putting up for the park that they just. Pardon? Yes.
Bioscape.
Yeah. Bioscape. Yeah. So Manhattan Beach wants to play. They're environmental, but they want to do it their way, and so we've got enough projects. We're not going to go fight somebody who's not welcoming us the way Hermosa did. Let's see, for lots of fun. This was a really fun project. It's a really small one, but some Girl Scouts came up and said, we want to plant a monarch garden. And so went to talk with the Girl Scouts. They had no clue what they were doing, right? They were just going to put narrow-leaf milkweed. Well, and I said, but you want to service the overwintering butterflies. That was their impetus. And you shouldn't be planting milkweed for overwintering monarchs. So gave them a little bit of instruction, and then we taught them how to use cowscape. and had them, they designed their own garden. And actually, they came up with some plants that we're now including in our palettes because they did so well. So they actually educated me, and it was fun to see these girls, 8 to 10, all of a sudden dive in and design their own garden, and they brought it back in a question, where's the sun coming from, and what does that plant like, and they designed it, and then we got there and they changed the whole place they wanted it. So I hadn't tested the soil there. So I go digging it, and it's like concrete. And so I'm like, oh man, it was 65 plants, so it's not a huge project, but I thought they'd plant like 10, and then I'd be there planting 50 the rest of the night. And those girls, man, they just hammered at it. They got all 62 plants planted in about 3 hours. And my biggest thing was once they planted them, they just started talking and trampling the plants. So that was my biggest challenge there. But it was fun to see these little kids, 8 to 10, doing the research and designing their own garden, and then taking pride in it. They put little signs in each of the plants. So that was one of my funnest projects. Let's see, Redondo Park. That was one. As Bill and I were fighting to rid us of the power plant. Well, there's that property west of PCH that the power lines go down, which would be needed if the power plant goes. So we lobbied for Redondo Park, and we wanted to plant under the power lines there before the park was even gone. I mean, the plant was even gone, but the current council at that time was anti anything to do with the environment. So they actually fought us. We had several organizations come down who were willing to support converting that whole 5-acre area to native plants. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend the money to lease the land. It was like $5 per acre. And they didn't want to spend the money to do that. So, but now with we got a new majority in the council, and they've already negotiated a lease with FCE to start a park there, and they just let a contract to start seeding that. The one stipulation, we can't put anything that would attract endangered species. So unless there's some guerrilla gardening, there's not going to be any buckwheat there, at least until the power plant's gone. But who knows who might go in there and spread some seeds. We talked about the old Salt Lake, the power plant site. So there is progress on that. We did successfully fight getting a new plant there. So that was a huge victory for us. It took years to accomplish. But recently, if you've heard, there's a guy named Leo Kostolnikov that bought the property. Just today filed bankruptcy. And the property is going up for auction tomorrow in the city of Redondo, with the State Coastal Conservancy. Al Maritsucci and Ben Allen will be going down there to put a bid in on it. So we've got our fingers crossed that we can get our hands on that property. As we were going through that process, we did bring in the Coastal Commission. We showed them that the Salt Lake was returning. So AES, for some reason, turned off their dewatering pumps, and where those oil tanks were with those big concrete revetments, water started coming up into it. And so we showed that there was active wetlands there, and the Coastal Commission documented and said, whatever you do, 6 acres has to be wetlands plus a boundary around it. So that's a minor victory. We want to expand that to a bigger area. And actually, Audubon helped us. They took the lead in documenting the species that we're using them. And so I worked with David Quadhammer and Moods to document that, and we already used that to start getting grant money. And so Audubon identified 133 different bird species. I took pictures of them with a long lens, and we used that to take to the state and convince them that this was something worth investing in. So it's exciting so far. The state has committed at least $15 million to acquisition, but they're willing to go more to buy the property. Esplanade Bluff, Jim's going to talk to you about that. The Esplanade Bluff Garden, that's a separate little project. The city, the county came to us and said, hey, we have this garden here, but it's not native, it's not looking good. Could you put in a demonstration garden of what flowering California natives could do? So it's not necessarily, it's not representative of the bluff habitat, but it is a small garden that shows that you can have something blooming each season and it will look green, not brown and dead, which is what a lot of people think. So I don't know if you've been there. It's in the north end of the Esplanade, and we got a little interpretive sign there, but it's getting a lot of recognition, and people are asking us what plants because they want to plant them in their yard. So it's already had some success, and there's a lot if you ever go there. the amount of moss, butterflies, insects, and then the birds has gone up substantially since we first moved in there. In fact, there's a black phoebe that hangs out on the one side, and that's his like feeding station. So, and we didn't see any real wildlife there consistently while we were carrying out the old stuff. So we consider that one a big success. Wilderness Park is actually where we started our restoration activity. We had been doing all policy stuff, and myself, and then President Jacob Barbarigos said, we'd like to do something more with our hands, not just work policy stuff. And at the time, I was having my yard redone as a native lawn, and I was working with a guy named Bill Pettit, who has since passed away. And he was one who said, I'd really like to do Wilderness Park. So we put our heads together, we approached the city, and I don't know why, but somehow, even though the council was generally against us, they let us start what we call rewilding Wilderness Park. We're now up to 4 acres in there. We may be getting another $120,000 from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do the rest of the park. But if you go there, it's a dramatic change. In fact, Western Bluebird came in after we converted the area. I was all excited, and I don't know where Ann went, but oh, there you are. I saw a blue butterfly there, and to me, that's always now Segundo Blue Butterflies. So I'm texting Ann and our U.S. Fish and Wildlife sponsor. So Ann, within an hour, just shows up because I think you were mad that we got them before your yard did.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she's close. We're a mile away.
I was shocked, so I wandered over there and had to give Jim that.
Yeah, so it turned out to be what I don't know. I said the Ackerman blue. So which is present here, so it might have migrated somehow from here.
Oh,
but it was a species that wasn't there before. We do have on the tallest bluff, we do have a habitat that would be favorable for the El Segundo blue if they ever decide to move that way. Alta Vista Community Garden, I already talked about that one, 4,000 acre garden. The city put up the fence, we've cleared the weeds off, and March 11th, we're building planter boxes. So that should be open by late spring, early summer. And then finally, the Alta Vista Elementary School asked us to do a demo garden, 300 square feet. We're now up to 1,200 square feet there with native gardens. And it's a demonstrator garden, so it's not a habitat, a formal habitat restoration. But again, all sorts of insects. Wherever we do this, you see the insects, the birds, everything follows through. So it's just spectacular. And I would really, if you ever get to Wilderness Park, that's kind of our biggest area we've restored. We're very proud of it. We give nature walks there, and we'll be holding Earth Day, and we'd love for you guys to show up and if you don't have other Earth Day activities, and have food or give walk or give a community talk there. So,
is this the Hopkins Wilderness?
Yes. Yep. Next slide. So this is by the numbers last year. We started creating metrics, which we didn't do in the past, but we started with this year. So with last year. So you can see we got 4,286 plants in the ground. You can see the split up between our main projects. A total of 1,184 volunteers on those projects. A lot of them school kids. Redondo Union, West High, South High, and now Lusinger schools are coming out in great numbers. That's our biggest source of volunteers. Had 134 events, so that's like 2 a week. So that it's we're firing in all cylinders, and we need good project leads like Jim. Thank God he came up on and took over the Bluff project. Right, I'd have even less hair. And total hours is about 2,659. So we're proud that our numbers have been ramping up through the years. And last year was our peak year, and this year is starting off with a bang. So I'm sure these numbers will be worked. Next slide. I think this is my. Oh no, I got one after this. So we also do education program. One of our big goals is to educate the next generation of kids coming up to help preserve and expand native habitats. So we have volunteer sessions. We do some upfront training at each of those, so that it's not just do stuff, it's learn a little while you're doing it. Wilderness Park Earth Day, it's a 2-day event. We have walks, seminars, and things like that during the event to help the community learn, and they get some hands-on planting experience as well. We've taught like 6 classes at Redondo Union High. We run monthly nature walks and a formal, I would say an informal junior urban naturalist programs. We give kids a little book and they go out and record what they find. They get a little magnifying glass. And, so they have a lot of fun doing that. We do that on a monthly basis. We've had, as I said, planting sessions at Alta Vista with the elementary school kids. And then we do ad hoc training. The Girl Scouts asked us to do the monarch butterfly training. We just did a presentation similar to this for the Garden Club in Formosa. So that was a lot of fun. And we have a small scholarship that we supported this year. We're hoping to ramp that up in the future.
The scholarship.
So there's a local organization that runs a scholarship program for the local schools, and you just, you say what you want it to go to, and then they administer the whole thing. So this year it's $1,000. We hope to up that through the year. So, okay, next slide. So this is my get off the stage. We are a founding member of the Segundo Blue Butterfly Coalition. You guys know about the Segundo Blue?
Yes, well, tell us about it.
Okay, so if you haven't seen them, they're about the size of your fingernail. Strikingly blue, that's a picture of one on the top side, strikingly blue. Their breeding seasons runs from like May to July. Population locations, PV, the Redondo Bluffs and Florence Bluffs, Chevron Refinery, the LAX Preserve, and Bologna Wetlands. And so one of the goals of this coalition is to connect those populations for genetic diversity. Their host plant is the sea cliff buckwheat. That's their only host plant, which is mostly why they're endangered, because as we wipe those plants out with ice plant, other invasives and development, I'm sorry?
Houses and streets. Houses and streets. Big and
Yeah. So we ruined that habitat, and now we're planting that, and it's actually thriving where we're planting it. So I think that's it. As I said before, we're working with Redondo and Hermosa. The Greenbelt is a key corridor for connectivity, and those big projects at AES and eventually Redondo, once the AES plant is gone, will be huge habitats for the El Segundo Blue. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim, who's going to talk to you about the bluff program that he's running. Bluff restoration.
It's not Jim, and actually thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I feel like I've come home a little bit actually, because for many years I would come in this room with Dr. Connie Badheim and Tracy Drake giving all their classes on natives. So they instilled in me a great love of California native plants, butterflies, and other critters. So I just feel really fortunate to be part of South Bay Parkland Conservancy, and to help work with wonderful volunteers to do what we're doing. Rewilding the South Bay. I get goosebumps. Every time I think about it, I just feel so fortunate. So, but one more thing I do want to say before I start is I want to just call out Lillian Light, Dr. Light. It's just a force of nature. I learned of her with the EPN Solar and Green Homes tour. I really never took that, so I took it, and before I knew it, those of you who know Lillian. She's very persuasive. I was soon on the tour myself with the board member of EPN. So a few connections that I've thought about through Lillian. But let's talk about first of all, the overarching Beach Bluffs Restoration Project, of which also the Esplanade is part of. So it's here on the left. You might see like little letters down there, and Dalkey is one of the so what is this all about, right? I mean, Jim kind of alluded to it, right? It's basically that connectivity all the way from vital wetlands in the north, all the way to PV in the south, connect it all up. And three big areas, right? There's Torrance and Redondo in the south, there's Manhattan in the middle, and vital wetlands in the north. And so the Esplanade Bluffs Restoration Project, that is a mouthful. I'll say just is one part of that, which SBPC has become more involved in. But the master plan had three goals, right? Or has three goals. So it's again increase the ecological value of the beach bluffs by restoring the native vegetation. So check, we're doing that. Increase recreational value by providing stewardship opportunities for restored bluffs, doing that as well. And then finally, provide a public education program about the beach bluffs and their coastal environment. And for example, I know you need your butterfly walkabouts when they're flipped about. So we're doing all those things down there at the bluffs, which is really exciting. And so anyway, the part that we're leading now is a collaborative effort. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, they have the purse string. They've given us $80K to help restore the bluffs. LA County Beaches and Harbor owns the land. The city of Redondo has the local coastal plan, and then LACC, Los Angeles Conservation Corps, does a lot of work down there at the bluffs as well. So it's really kind of neat. And then SBPC, we're kind of like the glue that holds it all together, and we basically kind of hold the volunteer events, administer the grant, get the plants, and do a lot of the work down there. So in 2021, U.S. Fish and Wildlife requested SBPC to take a more active role, which we did. And then I kind of already alluded to this. In 2022, they're so happy with what our progress is down there at the bluffs. They give us $80,000 over the next 4 years, and we're going to basically restore about 7 acres of habitat over the next 4 years in collaboration with LACC and most of our partners.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please do.
Where is this area? Is it, I used to walk on the path, walking path that's with the biking path that goes from Redondo Beach all the way down.
That's right.
Are you talking about the bluffs that are on the side?
Exactly
that?
right. And I'll show you a picture in a second, but it's basically from King Harbor, Veterans
Right,
Park,
King Harbor.
all the way south to the end of the Strand.
So that was all full of ice plants.
It was, and a lot of it still is.
Okay,
We were
so
best to ameliorate that situation.
that's a great picture.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, then I have a question about,
Sure.
I was recently, at Dockweiler, and, it seemed to me, I saw signs there that talked about restoration habitat for the butterfly.
Exactly.
Segundo Blue, so is that you, or who's working that?
So that's part of the coalition that Jim kind of alluded to already.
Yeah, I believe that part's Bay Foundation as well. They're doing the northern part. We're kind of doing the central, and then PVPLC.
Yeah, I remember many years ago, actually, there was someone leading that effort. I was helping.
Remember
I know.
LA, back in.
Larissa Stevens, right? You know her, so-
Well, I had worked at City Bell Segundo,
Okay.
and when they first, with Mark Gold, they started meeting in our facility
Oh, okay.
to try to get stuff going.
Yeah. This is kind of, it's been going on for decades, right?
Yes,
This effort,
I
right?
know.
And I really think we're getting a lot of momentum, you know.
The original native planting in the Dockweiler took place is on 2008. Yeah, they planted the stuff in winter 2008, in like January. They had butterflies by July. Wow, right there.
Well, they've been
And
talking
it's
about this
over
for
the
20
years, the sand has grown into it, so it's gotten taller and taller and taller. And all the plants that live near sand dunes, not a problem, no problem at all. You sand blow in, I'm just gonna grow a little bit taller. And there's other little projects being done here and there and here and there and here and there. We've got way more butterflies these days than when they first discovered it in the mid-70s.
So you have a question?
No, I asked mine.
You did already?
That's okay, yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah, Dockweiler.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Okay, so, and so that's pretty much all the talking stuff, and I was in a lot of pictures and some movies. So, actually, I lied. There's one more. So this is kind of what you guys talked about, right? So the Esplanade Bluff Restoration Project goes from basically the end of the Strand all the way up to King Harbor. And there's this concept of polygons. And so they're demarcated by hardscape. So if you've been, the Esplanade, you have the ramps going down, right? So for example, right now we're working in polygons 8 to 14, which is from here, which is right about Miramar Park in the south. And it's gonna go all the way up when we're finally done to Avenue C. So right now, this year, we've been working in polygons 8 and 9, where there's already been fire restoration. You'll see pictures. I'll show a lot of mature plants there. 10 and 11 is actually being worked on right now by LACC. And then in years 2, 3, and 4, it's going to be SBPC restoring 12, 13, and 14, which is another 2.5 acres. So basically in 4 years, we'll have all the way from 8 all the way to 14 restored. So we're at about 7 acres, pretty exciting. Okay, next slide, please.
So wait,
Oh, go ahead.
so it's not when you're walking on the promenade
Yes.
to the Strand, it's not the little gardens that people have, it's the area below that, correct?
So if you, let's go all the way south first, right? So like down there, right, in the Torrance area. And yeah, if you go back there, right, so this is basically, you've got ocean, beach, and then you've got basically the strand, the bike path is here. And then you get the bluffs there. And on the top is the Esplanade of the street. But you're right, as you get further north, right, you've got kind of like at now uphill, you've got like the upper walkway and the bike path below. And so it's kind of like bi-level.
Okay, so I'm thinking of those, so that's, you're not working in that area?
Not yet, but we're gonna.
Okay, but when you do, it's not people's individual gardens that they planted, it's the stuff on the.
That's right, it's the LA County land.
The-
Yeah.
Okay, the dunes.
And that's from here all the way to King Harbor, it's about 2 miles. So we've got 2 miles of habitat, you know, that we're gonna produce. I see John smiling. And a lot of face plant, right? Yes. All right, next slide, please. So this is the plant palette. It's changed a little bit from when Ann and Travis put it together in the past. But the idea, right, is we want to go ahead and restore with a more diverse palette of plants, native plants, because native plants are better for native critters, right? You know, they all have their likes and desires. And that's what's kind of exciting to me as we put new plants in. We'll see. You know, I want to start seeing what's the new wildlife that shows up. And so I'm not going to read through the whole list, but here they are. Most of them are perennials. We have some annuals. And
Is
what
that
we,
on your website?
it's not, but it probably
It's on
sure
the
should be.
Urban Wildlands website.
That's right. Actually, there's the beach bluff restoration plan. That's right. There's a link there. As a matter of fact, and we do have a link now on our Esplanade Bluffs restoration project page.
Okay.
You can click on that, and it'll show you everything in great detail.
Okay, great.
Some of the taxonomy is dated because it's always changing,
Right.
and particularly with DNA analysis these days. But it's pretty easy to dig in a bit and find out what the actual scientific name is these days.
Yeah, and so what you'll see here is, so we haven't gotten them all in yet, but so we've planted about 450 1-gallon pots so far and spread about 1 pound of the local Maritima variety of Sea-cliff buckwheat, the bicolored, not buckwheat, the poppy, right? The 2 gold, yellow, and orange one. And so over time, you know, I want to go ahead and get all the plants in here. One thing that's kind of exciting me now is we've actually teamed up the PV Peninsula Land Conservancy. Johnny Perez, they're going to grow out plants for us. So we've contracted with them to grow about 1,200 plants per year from the local seed stock.
2,000.
Well,
That's just for your project.
that's me. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Another 1,000 seeds of buckwheat for Jim. So yeah, we're going to keep them busy. So anyway, so let's get started with the fun stuff. All right. So this is March of last year. So you know, a little less of the year. You're going to see now over the last year what we've done, and I just kind of want to show you what was there before we started, right? So this is Ariaga, I'm sorry, this is in Celia, California, so it's our local bush sunflower, and that's up, and so can we talk about, right? This is right here to the left is the Esplanade, the street, and there's the bluff going down, there's the beach.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Good, exactly, yeah. So let's just start, we'll start going through these now, all the pictures. So next one, please. And so this is a really nice picture of lemonade berry up close. One of my favorites, and I'm sure people know, right? That you actually take the little berries, right, and actually have a nice sour flavor. You can actually put them in water and make a nice lemonade out of them. Yeah, that's very tasty. And so I know I'm with the Audubon, so if I get any of these birds wrong, don't string me up. But I use my friend iNaturalist, and so this one told me it was a great egret. So is that one right? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm 1 for 1. Cool. Thank you. And there's a movie here. So what's the little neck thing going? What's that? What are they doing that for?
Probably honey.
Is that?
They're watching.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I saw him get a lizard one time. It was like bad day for the lizard.
What, are those good plants for them or?
No, there's some coastal sage scrub in here. There's some, but there's a lot of, as animals know, there's plenty of invasive sea rockets, Russian thistle, crystalline ice plant, freeway ice plant. We've got cheeseweed. There's all sorts of.
This year, cheeseweed.
This is the year of cheeseweed. Yeah, but luckily we don't have the stuff you keep talking about up on the hill.
Oh,
Yeah, fingers crossed we don't get that stuff. All right. So this is a really nice mature Sea-cliff buckwheat right here. So and that was, I think, planted by LACC right back in the day, some number of years ago.
Yeah, so it's been there since 2004. And what's interesting is when the butterflies are flying, the lizards that hang around there will climb into the plant. And when the butterflies fly by, the lizard will jump out and try and get it.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Now, I've seen 2 males being fully eaten, and I saw a female actually flying around, so you know who's smarter.
And then the egret comes by and snatches up the lizard.
Exactly. All right, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a really nice mature bladder pod. So this one I love, right, because it blossomed for a very long time. So it's a nice plant for pollinators.
The
Next
more
slide.
rain we get, the longer they bloom. It's
Yeah,
really
right.
Great.
So, all right, so that was what was there. And so very exciting. This was the very first plant order I made to start putting new stuff down at the bluffs. So we started with beach bird, beach evening primrose, saltgrass, and bush sunflower. And so there's no saltgrass down there currently, so we brought that back. What's really nice about the saltgrass, if you've seen it, it spreads by rhizome. It's really great for erosion control. So we've got a lot, and it loves the sand. It's just really spreading out very nicely down there quickly. And the primrose, the beach bird, they've got a really nice seed bank down there, and they're already doing quite nicely. Bush sunflower too is also does well down at the bluffs. So we have 150 plants. Next slide, please.
Are you doing anything from seed or is everything from plants?
So there's some. We actually had a nice little wildflower spreading party back in December. We got about, was it, how many pounds of seed did we get? I forget what it was.
So I think we did 10 pounds for yours and 10 pounds for the other.
That's right. Yeah. So we had. So actually, if you go down to the bluff right now, the Avenue I restroom, just north and just south of that, we spread out that 10 pounds of wildflower seed. And there's tons of lupins coming up already. So it's gonna, we're gonna have our own little super bloom. So the selling point's gonna be in some number of years, we'll have 2 miles of super bloom. You have to go to Antelope Valley or Death Valley anymore. Just go to the beach.
There you go.
Parking will be done
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, here we are. Just it's plant day, so we got the plants we're loaded with the Esplanade. This is up on top. Next slide. And there we go. Just got the team on. So this is what to me is the real fun part. And I want to count the gay hands back there. Tom and Mary Pat. We got Julian here. We got Dan back there. As you people know, you run on volunteers. So thank you all what you've done. It's really just kind of neat, to see us grow. The momentum is really picking up, and I'm super excited now that what we're getting done at the bluffs. It's been neat, right? I came here in '84. I'd ride my bike, on the Strand all the time. I just never noticed what was there, but now it's like it's beautiful. I love it. So here we go. So now we're gonna start to put them in. So next slide. Got the holes, getting them dug, the 1 gallons. We ever let the 1 gallons, if you get the supplemental water on the 1 gallons, you'll see in the later pictures, it just really takes off very quickly. So I think that's the key thing, right? LACC, to their credit, right? They do what they can, but they can't come very often, right? But we're there, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a month. We got our big group twice a month, second and fourth Saturdays, but then we also have our little more core group. Actually, the folks that are here, we do some, who wants to go on the bus today and play. And so we'll go down and read and water and what have you. So so we make sure that the plants get a nice start, right? To get those roots down nice and deep. All right, next slide. So all these little flags are plants we put in. And this is actually the Avenue I restroom looking south towards the peninsula. Next slide. And now we're watering them after we put them in. Next slide. Okay, and this is, I believe, this is a common side blotch lizard. I see the little blotch right there. So it's either the western fence lizard or this one. So yeah.
Oh, they're real different.
Yeah. Well, to my eye, not so much.
It will be when you get the rest of them.
So anyway, so these guys, we don't like them. Well, they have their part.
Yeah.
So here we go. Next slide. Yeah. So and this is our our nice local 2-tone poppy up on top. We didn't plant those that have been there obviously for a while. Next slide. Still in March. This is a beach evening primrose, and it does really well all over up top as well as down the sand. And there's actually some beach fir in the back there too. That one's really nice too. All right, next slide. This was cool. We plotted on the 26th, and 2 days later we got rain. So I was so excited, right? Yeah. As a matter of fact, we have a volunteer event this Saturday, but now we don't because of the rain.
It's a little too close time of year.
Yeah, I didn't time it right. It should just wait till Sunday. But you get what you get. All right, next slide.
That was your saltgrass too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and go back there.
Was that-
Yeah, right, there's another saltgrass there, right? Yeah.
Mm.
And does that spread? It
Oh,
just
yeah.
Spreads out?
By rhizome, yeah.
Do you just put it right in the sand? Do you have to put any other soil or other amendments in the ground?
No, that's the thing about nays, right? That, matter of fact, they like the
So
nays
you
grow.
just put it right in the sand?
Yeah, right in the fan.
In fact, the plant list that Ann came up with, there's some for the upper bluff, which has more clay.
Uh-huh.
And this bottom section is almost all sand. And so Ann divided up which plants we should plant where
Oh.
in the plant palette.
So you have to think here, it's a difficult environment to live in. If they did, all the plants would be there, it was not difficult. And so these plants that can survive on that bluff and the wind and the salt and very fast draining soil, they're tough. And they do well there. And that means they don't need fertilizer because they've adapted to that really nasty habitat. And infrequent rain, when we don't get good rains, they'll just hunker down. Between what was about 2011, 12, 13, 14, very, very low rain years. And most of the buckwheat that was planted in 2004 survived. There were some losses, but then when we got big gonzo years of rain like this, you get a lot of reproduction.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. That's what's amazing to me, right? This is basically, a couple hundred feet from the Strand up to the Esplanade. And you have two very different microplants, right? I mean, it's pure beach sand, and saltgrass does great here, but not so well, up in the more clay-like soils. Yeah, so it's just really kind of neat to just see. And yeah, so look how nice and green they are right now. You'll see a little bit later they brown up as they do, right? So here's a nice panorama. So 150 plants, and I don't know, a couple. Oh, this is kind of nice. So each of these little the post that's 10 feet. So I'll give you a sense of scale as you go down. And then Anne in her in your survey, you use the light poles as the demarcation for the transects.
That one never moved.
That's right.
So far.
So far, yeah. Next slide, please. All right, so there's a close up of the saltgrass. Next slide. And this is the bush sunflower, the Encilia californica. Next slide. And this is the beach burr. And then one more, and that is, did I put the same thing in first? Primrose. Go back to, what did I say? Oh, that's right, that's right. That's right. Bush sunflower. Yeah, those are the four. The saltgrass, bush sunflower, the beach burr, and the beach Indian primrose. Okay, great. That's what we put in. All right, next slide. And so here are some native wildflowers, and there's a little bumblebee here if you want to play the movie.
And so this is active, obviously.
So I was not involved with these wildflowers, but they were very pretty.
Somebody could really garden.
That's right. It was so nice, and I'm not sure which bumblebee this one is. Do you have to go in?
Yeah, that's probably, it would be the yellow face. The only other one that I've seen down there is the snoring, which is bigger and really yellow on all its segments.
So that one's called yellow faced?
Yeah.
Okay. All
You can
Okay,
see it,
wonderful.
huh?
right, thank you. All right, next. All right, and then of course you can't just plop them in and walk away, right? So you gotta go ahead and basically maintain them. And so, we put berms around them, we put mulch around them. When the rains come, it tends to like basically, the sands come down, and until they get established, we want to kind of baby them a little bit. So, and actually there's Mary Pat right there. Let's see.
Do you have any scouts helping you with this?
I've had a few Eagle Scouts come out, but not as a troop yet. There's one that he promises me lots of scouts, but hasn't delivered yet. So I got.
We've had 4 Eagle Scout projects, at Wilderness Park.
Okay, good.
They tend to congregate to one area per se. And they're going to be building our planting boxes for our community garden.
Oh, great.
So,
That's nice.
so we've got a good rapport with the
Good.
local Eagle Scout troop.
Those sounds like really big projects.
You'll see a little bit later. I've got some slides with like the local high school students. That's to me that's one of my joys is helping to mentor.
Yeah.
So it's great to have that opportunity. Next slide. So there we are. And so this was, I don't know what this was. This might have been sea rocket or some nasty noxious thing full of seeds. Oh, that one was later. Boy, did I learn about the tumbleweed. So this was beautiful. I mean, beach burr. I mean, it's just to me, it's such a beautiful plant. In bloom. It's just really amazing. So that's Beach Bird in bloom. Next slide. Primrose, the whole hillside there, again, it's very nice, right? Okay, next slide. And this is one of my favorites, the beach sand verbena. You know, you get like the nice pinks and purples against the yellows. To me, it's a very nice.
Yes.
And you know, also it's very prostate. And it's also very good for erosion control. These two do a very nice job. As Dan said, right, they've evolved there, they've adapted there. They're really good at dealing with shifting sands and dunes. Next slide. So I believe this is a red-tailed hawk. So the other one was a Cooper's hawk. What do you guys think? Red tail?
Yeah.
Too dark belly.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. And so yeah, it's just, and so now this is kind of fun. A couple crows chasing them away.
Oh,
That'd be nice and nice.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
When I walk my parrot, I tell my parrot to chase the hawks.
Yeah. Although the hawks eat the lizards and chase the butterflies, so you know we want the hawks. And there's a lot of gophers down here now too. Oh my gosh, there was a beautiful. I had 2 beautiful salt bushes that LCC had put in, and so I'm walking, just checking things out, and one's like just beautiful, lush and green. That one's like starting to look a little shriveled up. What's going on? You know? And so I'm digging this out a little bit. The roots are completely gone,
oh,
and the gopher just.
yeah.
There's some plants are gopher resistant.
Okay, that wasn't one of them. So, but yeah, they have their part too. So just don't eat them all. So this is now going to be a little bit growth progression over time. There's going to be 3 slides here. So this is May 20th. So you got the primrose that we had planted. You got the saltgrass up here. You got the beach bird there. And so just next slide. And so you can see it's kind of spreading out already, right? It's amazing to me. These were 1 gallon pots. And they're already now spreading out over 3-4 feet, filling very quickly. And then the next one. And so yeah, so like within a little bit of over 6 weeks now, you've already, now you got, here's the beach bird already in bloom. And my goodness, they seed, yeah, as you say, there's a nice seed bank down there. I went down there in the fall and grabbed up big chunks of beach bird seed, which is easy to grab with all the prickers, and spread them around. But yeah, so this is, so basically, long story short, give them some water and they just sprout very, very nicely. Okay, next one.
Look at the,
Oh, go ahead.
up there on top, the pink crystalline ice.
Oh
plant,
God, yeah, that's the bane of our existence.
That is gone.
Well, yeah, it's
It got weeded this year.
yes, yeah, we did a good job. All right, next slide. And this is beautiful, right? So this is like in the foreground. This is your sequin buckwheat. I mean, look at that. Just all the blossoms on that mature plant. Then behind it, you got the Artemisia californica, the sage grass. California sagebrush looking really good. And then we got a lot of very nice mature plants that LACC had put in over the years. Okay, next slide. So this is kind of neat, right? So now the public's getting engaged. Here's somebody just posting all the Segundo Blue Butterflies that they had saw down the bluffs, on Instagram. So it's already a draw for the public, which is kind of neat. All right, next slide.
Do you have an iNaturalist for people to like an account so that people can add?
Yeah, I want to.
Because then it's all together, right? Rather than on Instagram, which is nice, but they can also post it.
Thank you for pinging me. It's on my to-do list that I didn't get to. No, it's good. I should do this. What's that? Yeah, thank you. You're great for us.
All right.
And send us the link. No, serious, if you don't mind, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to do one here as well. Yeah.
I probably posted iNaturalist for the bluff there.
Yeah, but
you
then
create a project, right?
specifically, an account,
Boundaries. on
then
it.
he can like.
Yeah, I'll
Control.
take care of it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna home tonight and do it.
All right.
Dig me into it. Maybe.
So you can ask them to post it up there.
How many of you have gone down there to see some of these butterflies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't, it's pretty spectacular. I finally did after we knew we were going to take over this project, and it was amazing because I walked by them for years and never knew, because I'm a surfer and surf down there. But once you see them, you can't unsee them. So they just catch your eye. I was there one day when we were actually doing our survey and this group of junior lifeguards was coming up the bluff, and they were all around, and they're flying in between these kids. They had no clue, and so I got a handful of them and showed them, and they nerded out on it. So once you go there, it's pretty spectacular.
What's the best time of the year?
It's like May, June, and early July.
4th of July.
Yeah. It's around
A
July.
couple weeks before and
There's not a
after.
handful of butterflies.
No, it's not a handful, it's
Wintertime
thousands.
rains.
No.
will
So you
affect
grab a
the
handful.
It sounded like you said.
Right.
Oh, no, a handful of kids. I'm sorry.
Exactly. I heard that too.
So,
All right. All right, next slide, please.
I misstated, I wasn't a handful of butterflies, I grabbed a handful of kids. Plus, I don't think it's true.
So,
Yeah, so there are any particular plants.
Their host plant is the secret buckwheat.
That's it.
Okay.
yeah,
That's it.
so
The one host.
So
That's
same
the
with
different-
the PV blue.
It's a different.
it's a different one.
Yeah.
PV blue like a certain.
That's a different plant.
Deerweed is.
And they
Yeah,
come out. and-
Astragalus and deerweed.
Yeah.
Rattleweed.
Yeah, there's a part of the
One
life
thing to
cycle.
think about the butterflies, they navigate by smell, not so much vision. I mean, they use their vision when they're trying to avoid a lizard, I think, but the smells are very important to these things.
And the butterflies will actually feed off any flower in the plant, but they only lay their eggs on the secret.
Yeah.
Mama
buckwheat.
butterflies are very.
I've seen them on, I have pictures of them on all sorts of different.
They will nectar on other things, but
Yeah.
preferably on buckwheat. They're almost always on buckwheat.
In the first round of interpretive signs down there, we had only one picture, a decent picture of an El Segundo blue, and it was taken by Jess, and it was on a mustard.
I have them on the
Can you
auxiliary
raise your
ones.
hand, Jess? I replaced the mustard.
Yeah, so that's right. For those of you that plant organic plants, right, you know, they have their own drought strategy, right? Some of them, you know, like dahlias, they'll keep the moisture. But a lot of them will look, you know, they'll go summer dormant. And so that's what you're gonna start seeing here, right? It's the buckwheat back there already, right? It's already, this is August now, right? They're looking brown. Same thing with the, you know, the saltgrass is starting to brown up a little bit. And the beech burr and the primrose are already kind of, you know, they're basically drying out in summer. And so this is August 27th, now go to the next one. And so that's November, right? And boom, everything's just, you know, it looks dead, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, when the rains
Dormant.
come, well, you know, they come back. So next slide, please. There we go, Todd.
Oh my goodness.
Our friend Russian thistle.
Oh,
So that was one of the biggest ones I think we got that day.
oh no. Ouch.
Horrid stuff. But no, I think the good news is, I hope, I think, we've exponentially reduced its
There you go.
its proliferation, I think.
doing a bare room,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
amazing.
All
Oh,
right, next slide. So now this is actually January. It's my birthday actually, so I went down to enjoy my birthday. at the bluffs.
the 8th, it's your birthday.
It is myself and Elvis Presley.
oh boy.
My mom's a huge Elvis Presley fan, so I think she made sure I came in on me.
Mine's the 9th.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we're close to
That's
birthdays.
right.
Go ahead. So you want, that's a movie there, you want to go ahead and play that?
Nice way to spend your birthday.
Right. We had the big winter storms, right? So
It was raining this
and you can see how much has been eaten away, right? If you've been on the beach, it's just really
Mhm.
amazing. And so I said house sparrows is that way.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 for 3. Yeah. Right. All
What's
right.
interesting is that, when the hawk comes over, I've seen like 2 different hawks that frequent that area. They go down deep into the brush, and the hawk will sit there and just try to hover right over them, and I haven't seen them get any.
That's the great thing, right? I mean, the ice plant, right? It's not gonna create that shelter and that safety for the birds, right? They can get right down into the bladder pod. You know, the ice plant, you know, not so much. So I spoke about LACC, LA Conservation Corps. If you go down to the bluffs now, this is basically polygons 10 and 11. That's Avenue I to Avenue G. And that's what they've done. So they've ripped all the ice plant out, and they've, you know, all the flags there are plants that they've put in. Next slide. And so that's below the fence line. So there's the ice plant. And what we do is we actually make use of the ice plant. We'll go ahead and chop it up and use it for mulch.
Oh,
So
that's great.
you have to be careful though. If it's too green, it will reroot. And so if you have to be careful.
The roots flying in the air.
Exactly. So anyway, and then there's some beach Indian primrose that they were going to put in. So the great thing is, so we've contracted with LACC to go ahead. They'll do the heavy work of getting rid of the ice plant for us. We'll look down the hill, and then the volunteers will come in and we'll plant the 1,200 plants per year that Johnny and crew at PVPLC is growing for us.
Mm.
So it's a really nice team effort. Next slide. Yeah, so right, I mean, who all went down to the beach after the storms, right? You know, that's the strand, that's the bike path. Wow. It was, I'd never seen, well, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but I've been to City Forward, never saw this.
I saw it covered even in 83 on Nino here.
So I just missed it. Okay.
283, but when
Uh-huh.
it was
Ah,
amazing.
okay. All right, so there we go, right? So this is kind of interesting though, right? So what you see now is, you know, erosion control, right? The beach eating primrose, the beach burr, where that's at, you can see it kind of held in the sand very nicely. And where it's not so much, right, it kind of just drew it away.
Yeah.
And so next slide. And so there's a close-up of the beach burr, you know, really kind of doing a nice job of helping with erosion control. Next slide. Okay, now this is the Redondo Union AP Environmental Sciences class. So that was, I don't know if I'll call it a mistake. You know, we typically have like 15 people per shift. And so I went into my little Son of Genius one day, and we usually, you know, it's like towards the, when the event gets closer and closer, then it starts to fill up. But this was like a week out, and all 15 slots were filled in both things. What's going on here, right? And it was Mrs. Moberg's Redondo Union Environmental Sciences class. So I thought, well, open up more, right? So we ended up with 30 and 30, and that was slightly controlled chaos. So, but thankfully we had enough of our mentors around to control the chaos a little bit. But it was a lot of fun. We had a great team. You know, they're down there getting rid of a lot of the weeds, the invasive. So the strategy down here, right? You can't weed everything you don't want. So you find out where the nays are at, and you give them a defensible space, right? So we weed around the spaces until they can grow and take over. So there they are down there weeding. There's Jim, I think, the crowd. So anyway, next slide. And this was fun too, right? Not just weeding, but planting, you know, so we teach them, you know, this is how you're gonna go ahead and move the pot. Here's how you're gonna, you know, dig the hole, blah, 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 all the things. And so they had a really good time. And that's I believe that's the Artemisia californica, the California sagebrush. Next slide. And so here's the morning crew. Mrs. Moberg's AP Environmental Sciences class, and there she is right there. She's really fun. Yeah. Oh, you know her? Oh, that's right.
I've interfaced with her.
That's right.
She said she actually learned something that day.
Oh, did you? Good. Good. Next slide. And that's the second shift. So 9 to 11 and 11 to 1.
Now the kids love her.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yes, that's Redondo Union, and that was January 21st. Next slide. Oh, so this is cool. So there was a great whale down at the beach for a while. And so that's another bonus, right? Not just I didn't get
Already see Jim Kathy now.
So blown out. So you'll see a few times. So that was kind of neat. I've never seen a whale in
That looks like a young one.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't know if this is true or not. I heard them say they would come to the shore to scrape the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that true?
correct. Barnacles up on the
Yep. Okay. All right. I never heard that before. So I was worried that my sister's gonna get beached.
We were watching
Yeah,
at
that's
the
scary.
Hickory plant when we get a youngster, and it would go from where all the pipes are heading out to the Chevron and the Hyperion
Right.
plant, and the entrance to Marina Del Rey. And there was this one that was really stuck, and it kept going back and forth for like 3 days before it finally woke up and said, "Oh, maybe I should go that way."
All right, next slide. So we're close to the end here. So this is Redondo Union and also Lusinger. You can't see it because this is there, but that's okay. So yeah, we have Lusinger students and Redondo. So it's really kind of nice that we're starting to get, you know, to see all the youth come out. Next slide. This is a really nice picture of the sea club buckwheat already blooming. And here's some Dudleya.
Yeah, that's from the 2004 planting.
Yeah, look at that stand. I think that's a really nice stand in there now, right? You know, yeah, like I said, we're seeing a lot of volunteers, self-propagation occurring with a lot of the different plants. That's a bladder pod back there. Okay, next slide. Yeah, this is one of my favorite. I love purple sage. I just love purple sage. So we put that in for the first time. Next slide. And then succulent lupin. Here's one. Now next slide. Oh, look at that! Isn't that amazing? So that's basically.
Wow.
I
We
guess.
think so.
Yeah.
We went through ice plant.
Yeah, they're actually overtaking the ice plant. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah.
Did they
that's
collect seeds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys collect seeds from these?
I'm going to. That's one thing I wanna do too, right? I mean,
It's kind of tricky
I think it
because
looks like all these images that you've shown, I've seen all of them so far in real life.
nice.
And you know why? It's because I run in that area all the time. I ran on that strand over there, like
Excellent.
1,000 miles.
Right, wow, that's impressive.
But sometimes I run about like maybe 9 or 10 or sometimes 12 miles, and it goes around that area too.
Uh-huh, yeah, it's really beautiful. I'm glad you can enjoy it. Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's one thing I wanna do is, right, you know, I wanna start getting seeds for Julia.
But that's, I remember 2 years ago, that stand was a lot sparser.
Yeah.
And I would stand there and watch the pods pop out and the seed would spread.
Yeah,
And last year we had a good, January of rain?
yeah,
December.
It didn't do quite as well
Early.
this year.
yeah, look at that.
Super blue.
Yeah, super bloom, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so this is habitat restoration in progress. So there's a little sign with a little QR code. And there's some students and there's Julian right there.
Kelly.
Yes, you were actually, this was a good day. I'm sorry, we didn't follow your advice. We didn't go after the cheese weed that day. We actually went after protecting all the parvifolium. And so Julian was our parvifolium whisperer, finding them all being hidden by the weeds. And we basically,
But did you guys see a group of runners ran that way?
we see a bunch of runners run that way. And that way too.
Well, some of them might have been my group,
Oh, okay,
but I wasn't with them that day.
all right. Well, you're always welcome to stop and help us. Bring all your runners with you.
I wasn't with them that day
Okay, okay.
because I was doing Super Bowl.
Okay.
that day.
Got it. So this is really nice, right? I mean, to me, this is beautiful, right? I mean, you got the Celia California on the back with the, just blooming like crazy. This is February 11th, so pretty recent. And then the lupins here, right? Just gorgeous. So habitat mostly, let's see, habitat mostly restored, but always in progress because you see down here, right? You got like the cheeseweed, you got some other nasty things. So next slide.
Do you get
So
any
here we go.
callbacks
That's the end.
people that are upset that the ice man is gone?
Oh yeah.
But not like in 2004.
No, it's like 1 out of every 100, really. I mean, we get a lot of, kudos and thank you for doing this, thank you for doing this. So it's really, it's nice. So yeah, as a matter of fact, we just actually got our easy up. Sounds like it's coming. We're gonna actually start plopping that down. We'll have we'll do educational outreach.
Oh, that's good.
As people go by.
That's good.
And so we talked about having, this is a weed, this is a plant, and use the opportunity basically to educate people, why ice plant's not good. And why we want the native, right? I mean, the biodiversity of plants provides a biodiverse fund. I tell you all this, you guys all know this. But so anyway, I just want to thank you all for your time. Thank you for all you're doing with Audubon. Give 1 second. And I want to call out the volunteers back there. No, not at all. Okay. Mary, okay. So there's our email address. If you want to contact us again every second and fourth Saturday of the month, but not this Saturday because of the rain. But sign up. Yeah, go ahead.
Website,
Yes.
please keep your website updated.
Okay.
Because I go on there and try to put stuff in the South Bay Bird Society newsletter,
Okay.
and I have trouble finding information, like your nature walks.
Okay. Well,
I've
here's
got a newsletter going out this week, and there's nothing, and I don't have anything.
so here's the great news, guys. Okay? We're about to unveil a new revamped website. We're all volunteers, and we now have Tamara, who that's what she does. She does web design, and so we've seen it. It looks awesome. So I think you're gonna be happy.
When did you do that? Because I was just looking at.
No, it's not. It's not live yet.
It's not live yet. She's populating it now.
Because yeah, I've been on trying to get information
Yes,
about your walks and stuff. I put that in.
I appreciate
If you
it.
go to volunteers, you can find the stuff.
Yeah. So any
By what?
There's a button on the right that drops down, says volunteers, and then it's hard to navigate. We've gotten that comment from others. That's why we're revamping the
Well, I
website.
want to be able to put in the nature walks too.
Yeah, that's in there too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
Well, I don't know if it's always up to date.
We'll put you in contact with Tamara.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So are you on Gala?
Gayla. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for what you did. And I think you had a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is an awesome project, but before you started this restoration project, you have to do the environmental impact.
For my time, perhaps Anne might know.
No,
Well, you're replacing the ice plants with some,
Yeah.
maybe some plant driver, you had to.
no, we got an
study the
exception permit.
information.
There's an exemption permit from Redondo Beach because it's maintenance of landscape.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're actually boosting the environment.
Yeah, but you have to study the impact to some insects or animals. Right, the area, that's a good question.
No, well, it wasn't us, it was LACC. They went through the proper channels. The permitting authority is the city of Redondo Beach, and they gave them an exemption. So they didn't have to go through an EIR. They did a quick analysis and said, oh, you're going from, invasive plants to native plants, and they said, that's an exempt project, so.
It's even okay with the coastal.
Well, because Redondo, unlike Torrance, Redondo has its own local coastal program. The coastal commission delegates the authority to the city. You can appeal it to the coastal
that's
commission in the appealable zone, and that it would be in the appealable zone, but nobody's challenged putting in native plants.
Jasmine,
Yeah,
do we
they do.
have any people there with their hands raised?
No, not yet, but if anybody asks questions, I either will have, we'll mention.
Okay, so go ahead, folks. Raise your hand if you want to have a question or a comment.
Go ahead.
If it's all planted in the sand dunes, basically, how far inland can we plant these butterflies?
So you want to actually address that?
I think Ann's probably the best. We're setting up a
I
program.
drew the boundaries.
Oh, okay, good.
Basically here in the South Bay City, anything, west of Prospect is suitable. What you do is here's the beach, here's Prospect up here, and there's a slope here, and what you want is to get those west winds going along with lots of very sandy lots, and where you get plenty of secret buckwheat. So if you live, a few houses west or east of Prospect, but you want to plant the plants, go ahead. Getting the butterflies is another thing. They do it on their own, and you just never know. When we did the 2004 restoration, the expert Travis Longcore, who wrote this master plan that Jim started off with, one of the Jims, Beaches and Harbors was concerned about getting an endangered species on their property. And Travis says, they're never going to find it on their own. They don't fly very far. You don't have to worry about it. And when was it? It's 2007. Myself and two LACC members, LA Conservation Corps members, we're going to go up and meet with Beaches and Harbors. And they had personnel changeover. And one of the LACC gals, she went out to take pictures. And I got a call from her. I think I may have seen them El Segundo Blue. Well, Travis said they wouldn't be there. But she sent me the picture, and I got online and looked up. I used the scientific name. If you want to find decent information, use the scientific name. And I sat there, I'm going, holy shit, we've got the El Segundo Blue. But we had to get somebody who had the credentials to identify it. So that was happened. Oh, well, my husband and I went on a backpack trip. When we came back, I got a call from Travis and said, yes, indeed, it was. And so then we had a press release. And I had Fish and Game standing right next to me, and one of the males went bing and ran right into my chest, and it was just a little. But what I have learned, I did eventually get what's known as a recovery permit, so I'm permitted to do surveys for both the Paltry Blue and the El Segundo Blue. Where is my brain going? I'm very tired right now. Anyway, I've been able to observe these butterflies. Palovardes not so much because they're very confined to where they go, and then they're still very, very, very picky. One of the executive directors at Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy said, I think that Palos Verdes blues are trying to extinct themselves. You know, Jess mentioned we don't really know how to make them thrive. But the El Segundo blues, all you've got to do is put in their host plant with some associated other native plants. And what I've noticed is a 30-30 or 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of the host plant, 1/3 of an associated either California bush sunflower, the Encelia californica, or sagebrush, Artemisia californica. Artemisia doesn't do well on the bluffs, so it rains like crazy. But what I have noticed with the butterflies, the males will sit and they set up these patrol lines. So like they might go down this row and then turn the corner and then come back around and go like that. They're looking for a girl. And they're not always successful. Well, the females, when they mated, they will fly much further distances because my husband says, Mama butterfly will only lay her egg on the plant she thinks, it's that buckwheat plant that she thinks is best for her babies. So I've seen them much further away than the males. The males are just like, gotta get me a girl, gotta get me a girl. And the girls are going, well, I'm not too sure yet. That's really the life of these butterflies. And of course, they have to watch out for lizards, things like that.
Mating is generally pretty quick. But I think with endangered species, including the El Segundo blue, that one does want to be careful. There should be a memorandum of understanding that with the Fish and Wildlife Service in any attempt to establish a population. And that's, I think, the concern that the city has for the Redondo Park area. And that if the city were to use that property for El Segundo blue and other things, but a population of El Segundo blue within it is to be expected there. There should be at least a discussion with Fish and Wildlife Service to make sure that one can go back. The idea of the MOU is that you can return your property to the original state. Whereas if you have the endangered species on the property and you don't have an MOU, which is essentially given a baseline with no butterflies on the property, the MOU allows you to go back. If you don't have the MOU, well, probably you won't have problems, but probably is probably.
Yeah, and actually in that case, it's not the city, it's SCE. They're the owner of the property. They want to be able to use their property however they want. So, and we actually spotted burrowing owl on their western burrowing owl on their property, and the city cautioned me not to mention that because then the CE wouldn't let them the property. So.
And that's not going to stay there, but the blues would.
Right.
You can also get a Safe Harbor Act, which enables you to access, the facilities to make repairs or whatever, and just you have to let Fish and Wildlife Service know.
Well, it effectively is an MOU.
Did we have any online questions?
No, we do not. Just a few comments, like thanking you and very informative presentation, but no questions.
I knew.
Okay, sure.
Longer Park. So thank you so much for taking over the island. I know the work that she does there. I'm usually there once a week running around that lake.
Okay.
And it looks like somebody came in and cleaned up a whole bunch of brush on that.
Oh
lake.
yeah. Yeah, after the windstorms, there's a lot of palm, palm fronds in there. Actually had one blown over the tree that the city took out. And so it gets pretty overgrown.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up something. I don't know if you heard this, but I heard this a few years ago. Apparently LA County is under some sort of directive to increase, the park space, because we don't, as you know, we don't like that many. And one of the ideas that's really actually, evil, is because it's next to a golf course, the golf course there, is to like just get rid of the golf course and just declare it parkland, which is like, excuse me, that's not increasing anything. I saw it come up again recently because I thought that got killed because I thought, people would be intelligent enough to realize that isn't like doing anything. And I just want to bring it to your attention because like, that is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And people golf there all the time anyway,
The county is a huge bureaucracy there. They're the most difficult organization we've had to deal with. Jim's been trying to get a hold of, they're doing several ramp projects where we want to make sure they follow Ann's Beach Bluff plan, when they replant it, and they keep changing managers, and it's just getting the signs approved this time took forever. So I try to avoid them.
The city of LA.
When they gave me the contract or the agreement to do Alondra Park, they specified their standard plant palette for all parks, and only a couple of them were native plants. And I said, that defeats the whole purpose of this. And it took them 3 more months to go back through to explain to them why that plant palette wasn't the right one. I said, I'll talk to anybody, but they won't let me talk to them. It's their own.
I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you, keep persisting.
Sure.
But, and if you can, don't let them take the golf course. I mean, people are golfing there all the time, because it's a revenue source.
So I would assume since you're Audubon, there's a lot of birds on that water. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
We
it's,
consider Christmas bird count, so
Yeah.
we do that.
and if you go out on the island, you can smell it. Because that's where they all come out of the water because they're safer, but there is coyote predation on the island.
On the island,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
coyotes.
Yep.
They swim up.
Yep.
So I want to be respectful to people's times here. I mean, maybe I don't want to take too more questions, right? I mean,
Yeah, we're at 8:40, so I want to be mindful of everyone's
Right.
time. Maybe one really short
Yeah.
question, and then and whoever has to head out right now, totally understand.
Well, I've worked at Alondra Park before, but the park 8.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time. A lot of thank you. Some people are saying that they really enjoyed the presentation, so thank you for being here. Yeah.
and for hosting us.
And come out to Earth Day, and if Audubon wants to participate with us on that Earth Day event at Wilderness Park, we'll gladly have you there in whatever capacity.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.